Imagine you're standing in someone's kitchen at 9 a.m. There's music, people are laughing, and someone just handed you a drink. And by every outside measure, you're having a good time. Except you're not. Not really. There's a nagging voice in the back of your mind. How long have I been here? Is 45 minutes long enough? If I said I'm leaving now, would it be awkward? Here's the reality. You chose to be there. No one forced you into this. Just a few days ago, you replied them with, I'll be there, yourself. And now you're there, physically there in body, but your mind is counting the seconds, anxious and already plotting your exit strategies, while also having to act like you're having a good time, because you're also afraid of what other people might think of you if you just took off. And finally, on the Uber back home, not only are you exhausted, but you also ask yourself, why do I always agree to do things or go somewhere that I never wanted to in the first place? If any of this sounds too familiar, this episode is for you. Welcome to Self-Full, the show that tackles the mental challenges in life that doesn't come with an instruction or a guidebook. My name is Wilson. I'm not a therapist and I'm definitely not a guru. I'm just someone who spends years being the easiest person in every room to get along with and slowly resent myself and people around me more and more while I did it, until I realized what was really going on in my head. And today we're talking about people pleasing. How that feeling of being somewhere embodied but your mind keeps reminding you that you don't want to be there is one of the most common things that happens in any relationship. We'll explain why the resentment you feel the moment you agree to something you don't want to do isn't a character flaw. And 3 things about people pleasing I wish someone had told me way earlier. What's actually driving it, what's genuinely costing you, and 1 specific things you can start doing today without having to become a whole different person overnight. We're not talking about any quick fix or temporary feel-good moments, but focus on helping you genuinely understand what's happening in your own mind. Stick around. We're getting into all of it. The thing about people pleasing is that this phrase has a bit of a bad rep. Calling someone a people pleaser usually gets a defensive reaction because it sounds like you're saying they're weak or fake or spineless. But that's not really the case. People pleasing is basically about always saying yes to stuff you don't want to do, just to dodge the awkwardness of saying no and dealing with how the other person might react. It's really that simple. It's not about whether you're a good or a bad person. Often, it isn't even really about the other person. What matters is how you handle that uneasy feeling. That jolt of anxiety when you think about saying no and seeing the change in the other person's face. And if you keep it up long enough, it stops feeling like an actual choice. The response just comes out automatically. When someone texts, yo, let's go for a drink tonight, your thumb might start typing yes before you even finish reading the message. Honestly, it's pretty wild how fast that could happen. So today, let's tackle these questions. Why do we even say yes so fast? What's actually going on in that quick moment between the ask and your agreement? And why does always being the agreeable one leaves you feeling invisible? Plus, what can you really do about it when that habit just kicks in? So first of all, why is it so hard to just say no? The truth isn't about who you are. It's all in your body, which leads us to point 1. It's a reflex, not a personality issue. We tend to beat ourselves up with thoughts like, I can't stand up for myself, or I'm such a pushover. That inner critic can be pretty harsh, but it's completely off base. Here's what's really happening. Saying yes on autopilot is one of those instructional moves your nervous system pulls out when it feels threatened. You probably heard of fight or flight, right? Well, there's a third option that doesn't get much attention. Appease. You try to keep things smooth and pleasant so you won't get hurt. In social situations, you can't really fight your friends or bail on them, so your nervous system defaults to this other strategy. It makes you easygoing. Saying yes becomes a safe play. Here's the kicker. All this happens before you even consciously decide anything. Your body is on high alert, picking up subtle cues like tones or facial expressions for any signs of danger. If you sense even a slightest hint that someone might be upset, your nervous system screams danger. And by the time you said, yeah, for sure, your brain has already made the call in a fraction of a second earlier. driven by your nervous system that just wants to keep things safe so it can keep you safe. And that's why telling someone to just say no doesn't really cut it. By the time your logical side kicks in, the yes is already out there. You are not weak. You are not a pushover. You're just running a quick safety program that operates faster than you can think. But see, your body actually gives you a hint right before you said yes. You might feel a small drop in your stomach, a tightness in your chest, or even an urge to step back a little. That's your true self recognizing that something's off before your mouth has a chance to say yes. The problem is that many of us have spent years tuning ourselves out. We've been ignoring our own gut feeling for so many years that we got really, really good at it. We basically ignore ourselves on autopilot. So if saying yes to other person comes out too fast for you to stop with logic, what can we actually do about it? And here's your first tool, the body check. Like I mentioned before, your body actually gives you a hint before you respond, just that we got really good at ignoring it. So all we have to do is to notice it again. Your body usually gives you two different types of feeling, either a lift or a sink. When you really want to say yes, your body usually feels open. There's a relaxation to it, a lean in and a lift. But when it's a solid no, your body closes off. Your stomach drops, shoulder tense up, and there's a sense of heaviness pulling you back. Even we've been ignoring them for years, I promise you that knee-jerk reaction is still there. So the next time someone asks you for something, take a moment to check yourself. Does it feel like a lift or a sink? And why does this work? It's because your body picks up on signals way faster than your brain does. It is the most honest reaction on what you actually want before your fear can twist it into something different. Here's what that looks like. Say it's Thursday night and you just got a text from your friend and it reads, "Hey, any chance you can help me move on Saturday? Just for a few hours, I swear." Before you even finish reading it, your stomach drops. That was supposed to be your one free weekend in a month, and that sinking feeling is your gut telling you the real answer. But right after that, your brain starts monologuing. If I say no, she'll think I'm a bad friend, she'll think I'm a flake, and she will remember this forever. And before you know it, your thumb might be already hitting the keys, typing, "Yes, of course, what time?" Only this time, you felt that drop in your stomach. You noticed your body's reaction that you have been ignoring for so many years. And at the same time, you watched yourself type right over it. And what's stopping you from hitting send is because you noticed. The body check isn't about saying no. Not yet. It's that moment where, for once, you actually felt the drop instead of brushing past it. This time, you notice what your body is actually telling you. And honestly, I've been ignoring that drop for so many years. I remember at an old job, I was the yes guy. New project? Yeah, happy to help. Staying up late again? Yeah, sure, no problem. Covering for somebody? Yeah, I got it. And before I know it, I developed a reputation for it. And I gotta be honest, I also had a bit of an embarrassing pride in that reputation. Every time my colleague popped their head in my cubicle, my stomach would do that little drop. Every single time. But I just ignored my own gut feeling right away and agreeing to whatever that my colleagues need me for at the time. I told myself it was just normal work stress. I mean, everyone's stressed, right? Took me years to realize that wasn't just stress. That was my body trying to tell me something I kept ignoring. And I still remember the first time I really noticed it. It was a Friday at 6 p.m. and I was ready to leave. And one of my colleagues had just popped in my cubicle. Maybe I was too tired at the time, so that time, the drop in my stomach was loud and clear. I didn't even do anything about it. I didn't say yes, and I didn't say no. I just sat there for a couple of seconds, noticing my own gut feeling. I think that might have created a couple of seconds of awkward silence for my colleague at the time, but when I finally stepped out of my own thoughts, my colleague had already said, "Don't worry about it, he's gonna find someone else to help him." And strangely, that tiny moment kicked off everything for me. So now you can feel it. That drop, that quiet no your body sends up before you talk yourself out of it. But noticing is just step one. Feeling that sink doesn't tell you what to do with it. There's another signal that shows up later, after you've said yes, after the damage is done. And that one doesn't whisper. It festers, which leads us to point 2. The resentment is a messenger. Most people think the biggest downside of being a people pleaser is just feeling worn out. And yeah, it's totally exhausting, but that's not the real issue. The real deal is this. Every time you act like a version of yourself that said yes when you really mean no, that's the version people connect with, not the real you. I mean, think about it. If your friend sees you as someone who's always down for just anything, because you've been showing up, smiling, and being the fun one, they don't actually know the real you. They just know the role you've been playing. And honestly, by now, you've been pretty committed to that role. So when you say yes instead of no, it doesn't just drain your energy. It slowly turns you into a ghost in your own relationship. You might physically be there, but you're missing when it really matters. That's why you can feel invisible, even if everyone seems to like you. They're not connecting with the real you. They don't know who the real you is. You haven't let the real you be part of that friendship. And then it comes the resentment towards yourself. A lot of people feel it and immediately adds guilt. Why do I feel this way? They're perfectly nice. I should be grateful. What is wrong with me? Here's something that's crucial to understand. That initial gut feeling, which we covered in point 1, is straightforward. I didn't want to be here. That's the main point, clear and understandable. But the shame you piled on afterwards, that's a second wave of pain. That's something you're doing to yourself. So when you feel that resentment, it's not just whining. I mean, it sucks to feel that pain, but it's actually also a signal that something important, something you definitely need, isn't being addressed. Not a want, a need. Every time you say yes, there's usually a reason behind it. When you agree to do something just to keep things smooth, it's rarely about helping them out or being a good person. It's about something much, much deeper. It's about needing to be liked. It's about needing to feel like you belong. It's about needing to avoid conflict. It's about needing to feel safe. But even though saying yes to people might cover these needs, it's also at the same time robbing you from much bigger needs like your need of having time to yourself, your need for a good rest, your need for being honest, and your need of a chance to be truly known. So the resentment that we're talking about is just the sound of that much bigger need getting ignored. It's not about blaming someone else. It's pointing out something important to you that got overlooked by yourself. So when the resentment pops up, instead of pushing it down or directing it at something or someone else, why not take a moment to dig into it? And here's your second tool, the need trace. When you notice that resentment, don't fight it or act on it right away. Instead, ask yourself this one question. What do I really need here that I'm not getting? Then follow that through. Here's the trick. Your brain won't exactly give you a clear answer, at least not at first. So start with the raw version. If you think, I always get taken for granted, trace it back. What you really need might be fairness, a chance for your time to matter. And if you say, why am I the only one showing up? The need could be to feel appreciated. You want to feel like you matter. And if you feel like, I never get a break, it boils down to needing some rest. The complaints that you have in your head are just a surface issue, and the needs are what's underneath them. A feeling you can't name will end up controlling you. But a need you can name, that's something you can work with, which is why the need trace is so important. We tend to choose our actions, or when I say choose, and most of the time it's just reflexes, to address our current emotions, which without a clear need, our action may not be successful in addressing our feelings, and often it could actually backfire. Naming what you need turns that vague, messy feeling into clear information you can actually act on, so that we can better choose what actions to take to address those needs, rather than being blindly driven by our own emotions. Let's picture a scenario. Say you told your aunt that you'd come over early to help set up for a family lunch, and you said yes weeks ago without thinking twice. Now it's Saturday morning and you're driving over on the one Saturday you had to yourself. You can feel that annoying tightness in your chest, and you're asking yourself, why is it always me? How come nobody else in the family get asked to do this? It's very easy to just be immersed in those feelings the whole drive and shows up all grumpy, which probably have happened before. But this time, you catch yourself. You start to wonder and ask yourself, what do I really need here? When I ask myself, why is it always me? What need of mine is that question addressing? And then it dawned on you, you wanted your own time to matter. You don't want to just be the family go-to person. You need your time to be respected, and you need fairness. Recognizing those needs of yours doesn't change the fact that you still have to go help set up the family lunch. I mean, it's not like you're going to turn the car around right now. You're still heading over. But for the first time, instead of being lost in annoyance, you've got a clear signpost showing where your feelings are coming from. And you can begin to think about how are you going to address those needs. Here's a little personal experience. I remember I was in a relationship where I just kept saying yes to basically everything. Her plans, her friends, her schedules. I thought I was being a great boyfriend, just going with the flow. Whatever she needed, I'll be there or I'll do it, But then resentment slowly built up. Over time, I became more and more easy to get angry over silly little things. And as time went by, there was a coldness I didn't even recognize in myself. And this got scary for me. For a while, I was really scared this meant I stopped loving or caring about her. And one night, instead of running from that resentment, I decided to just sit with it. It turned out it wasn't about not caring at all. Underneath it all, it was the realization that I needed to matter too. I needed my life to mean something, not just to be tagged along in someone else's. Recognizing that didn't magically solve all of our problems, but for the first time, I understood what was really bothering me instead of just feeling guilty for being annoyed. I stopped myself from being blindly driven by my emotions and took it up to myself to address what I actually needed loud and clear to my girlfriend at the time. That relationship did not last, but it also made me realize something far more important, which I'll address in the next point. But before we do, now you got two signals to watch out for. That physical feeling before you say yes, the gut feeling that gives you the real answer, and the resentment that comes after it. One is like an early warning sign, and the other's kind of like a receipt, a bill that comes due. But here's the kicker. Both of those happen around the yes that you eventually sent, either before or after. The tricky part is figuring out how to catch yourself in that split second when the ask is happening. Right before your mouth starts to say yes. That's where the real challenge lies, which leads us to point 3. Create a gap before you force yourself to answer anything. First of all, let's talk about the fear that we all deal with. The reason we jump to say yes so quickly is because we're scared of what saying no might lead to. But know this, saying no doesn't mean the end of a relationship. Most of the time, it actually opens the door to a more real one. When you finally said, I'm going to skip this one, I just needed a quiet night, and the other person replies, no problem, next time. Something shifts. You realize the worst case scenario you were afraid of didn't happen. The relationship is still intact, and now you know that this relationship can handle some honesty, your honesty. And of course, sometimes people might feel a little bit disappointed. And there are moments when you say no and discover that the relationship only thrives when you were constantly putting on a performance. That can hurt. I'm not gonna lie. But it also helps you figure something out. The relationship that can respect your no are the one that really matters. If someone only sticks around when you're always available, it wasn't really a connection. It was more of an arrangement. They needed you for them, not needing you for who you actually are. And that's why the previous relationship that I was talking about earlier didn't last. I don't think it's anybody's fault. I mean, I was the person that chose to say yes every single time she asked me for something. And by doing so, that may have misled her to believing that was the real me. So now you can probably see that by hiding who you truly are in fear of having to disappoint other people could easily mislead other people and at the same time backfires on you. So how do we stop ourselves from doing that? Even when you can consciously catch your gut feeling before saying yes when you want to say no, and even when you can turn the resentment that comes up afterward and trace what you really need, both of those insights need one thing to work, a little pause between being asked and your answer. Right now, that pause doesn't exist, and you tend to say yes before you even think. It's really hard to change how fast that reflex fires. It'll happen and you can't really control that, at least not yet. But you can put one thing between the request and your answer. And this is the third tool. Just take one deep breath. That deep breath is crucial. It's what allows the other two tools that we previously talked about to kick in. You can't check in with your body's feeling if there's no pause to feel it. And you also need time to trace your need before you actually blurt out the yes and commit to something that you don't want to do. That deep breath is the opening for those two tools to kick in, to allow you to have time to check your body's feeling and to trace what you actually need. So why a deep breath? Because a deep inhale and a long exhale sends a signal to your nervous system saying, we are safe, relax. It gets your thinking brain back online, rather than being caught in a fight or flight moment. When our fear took over, our logical brain tends to be silent. But when we take a deep breath, a deep inhale and a slow exhale, in that brief moment, your real answer has a chance to surface before the panic one does. This is the one breath rule. Before you respond to any request, just take one deep breath first. That's all you have to do. One breath, all the way in and all the way out before you say anything. Not to waste time or make it awkward, but just to create a little space between the reflex and your actual reply. With the one breath rule, you allow yourself to have time to check what your gut is actually telling you and trace the need that you might be missing in this situation. During that gap, you can check if you're feeling a lift or a sink. If it's a sink, what's it pointing to? What need of yours might not be met if you say yes? You can still say yes afterwards, but now it's a yes you've given some time to think about, not just an automatic reaction. And why this works is because your thoughtful responses takes a little longer to form than your anxiety-driven reflex. That one deep breath helps you buy those extra seconds. That tiny space between the request and your reaction is where your true choice resides. It's what brings the first two tools that we talked about previously to life. Here's how it might go down in a moment you'd actually recognize. Let's say you're at an event and barely knows anyone, just friends of a friend. Someone you met like an hour ago says, we're all going to this bar afterwards and you should totally come. And just like that, your brain goes into overdrive. You want them to like you and your mouth is already itching to say, yeah, sounds fun, let's go, before you even check if it is what you really want. But this time, you take a deep breath, just one deep breath. And in that little moment, you realize you're feeling a little bit overwhelmed, a definite no. And right underneath that, you notice you're running on empty and getting home to recharge is what you actually needed. So you take that breath and then say, that's super nice of you, but I'm going to head home tonight. But next time for sure though. And guess what? The world did not end. They're just like, yeah, totally. Next time, man. And as you walk to your car, you feel something you rarely feel after these situations. You feel like yourself. Now, I gotta be real with you about how this goes the first few times for me because it wasn't all smooth sailing. The first time I actually tried to pause, a close friend asked me to join in on a side project, a big commitment. They needed weeks of my time. So I took that breath and wow, it felt awful. The silence felt like forever. My heart was racing. Every part of me was yelling, just say yes right now, or he'll think that you're not dependable, that you're not a good friend. And honestly, I almost caved. What came out was this awkward, maybe, can I let you know? Pretty smooth, right? But guess what? It worked anyway. That little pause held just long enough. I went home, checked in with myself, and realized that I needed rest, especially during those few weeks that my friend was asking me for. And so I shot him a text next morning and he simply responded, no worries at all, man. And that was it. I mean, the pause was definitely clumsy, but the outcome, not so much. And it got a little easier every single time after that. And from that, I also realized that if the one breath rule still doesn't give you enough time to check your gut feeling and trace your need, you can always buy yourself more time with this one sentence. Let me check and get back to you. That's all you need. You're not obligated to give an instant answer. You never were. People pleasing isn't about being a bad person or a weak person. It's just a survival instinct your nervous system developed to keep you safe, usually from a long time ago and for good reasons. The issue isn't the strategy itself. The issue is still using it now with people who are safe enough for you to be real with. That means you don't have to struggle with the anxiety of not saying yes and the resentment towards yourself and other people when you actually commit to something that you don't want to do. You need a step-by-step approach. Just take one deep breath to create a little space. In that space, check with your body. Are you feeling a lift or a sink? If you're sinking, that's your cue to find what need is hiding underneath. Understanding that need can turn the guilt and the resentment into something useful. The one breath rule creates the space. The body check helps you identify where you want to go, and the need trace helps you to plot the best course to get there. Let's be real, the first few times might be very awkward. You might forget, you might still say yes out of anxiety, under social pressure, and then only realize that you should have caught that feeling an hour later. But know this, that is not failure. It's part of the learning process. Just noticing it is progress. Catching it late still counts because it means the next time you might notice a bit sooner. Thinking back to where we started, standing in that kitchen at 9 a.m., watching the clock, feeling present in body but not in mind, that feeling isn't a flaw. It is a signal you didn't have the right tools yet, but now you do. The next time you feel that little sinking feeling, you'll know it's not about being difficult or selfish or a bad friend. It's just you starting to take your own side. If any of this clicked for you, send this to that one person in your life who can never say no. I think you know exactly who I mean. And if you try the one breath rule this week and notice a shift, leave it in the comments. I'd love to hear about it. So go ahead, take that deep breath. Feel what's actually true for you. You're not weak. You're not spineless. You are not broken. And you are allowed to be who you really are. And remember, I'm always here for you. Take care.